Guardians of Innocence, and this is our second in this particular operation. And we often talk about child pornography, and quite frankly, I say, we're arresting these people for child pornography, and that's what we're going to talk about today. However, it's very, very important for you to understand what child pornography really is, and I'm not so sure that we say that often enough. Certainly there are people that think child pornography is quote-unquote kiddie porn, that it's 16 or 17-year-old girls who make themselves look a lot younger, but they're really mature, and that's not it at all. When we talk about child pornography and those that we've arrested today, they're either dealing in or possessing or trading or a combination of all of those things of pornography, child pornography, of children being raped, of babies as young as diapers being raped by adult males. This is the most horrific conduct you can ever understand in your entire life. These people have this. Now, obviously, we received information, and that's why we investigated them. But just as important to understand is we're also looking for the victims of child pornography. We did not find any of that in this particular operation. But when you think about the horrible acts that they're doing to innocent, not only children, but babies, it makes your blood boil. And when you think about these folks, you go, well, what kind of people are they really? Well, I've got a lot of adjectives for them, but let me tell you that some of them appear to be, just normal people in life until you know that they're not normal at all. How about Edward Zabarski? He's 48 years old. He claims to be a professional bartender, and he's currently working at the Cheers bar in Kissimmee. He had 64 counts of child pornography so far. Now understand that we are still investigating their different phones or apps or computers, and there could be add-on charges at a later date. But when he's not tending bar, he's looking at child porn. And then there's Bruce Noper. He's 51. He told our detectives that he has been viewing child pornography since the late 1980s. Did you hear me? The late 1980s. He's employed as a laborer at Top Hat Cleaners, and his favorite child porn was children between 4 and 6 years of age. We have him charged with 12 counts. And you might say, why only 12 counts if in fact he's been at this since the 1980s? Well, I must tell you, weeks before we arrived at his residence, his girlfriend discovered that he was looking at child porn. She totally destroyed the computer, totally destroyed the hard drive, and I mean poured acid on it, beat it with hammers, just absolutely tore it up. He is reported to have said that he could have had thousands of images of child porn, but for his girlfriend, who was absolutely shocked by that conduct and trashed his computer. Now here's Matthew Sentz. He's 35 years old. He is already a registered sex offender. That's right, a convicted felon. He was sentenced in Illinois for 3 years, or 2 3 years in the state prison system, for possessing child pornography. Obviously, it didn't work so well. He's now charged with another 100 counts. Oh, in addition to his 3 years, Illinois made him do 200 hours of community service. I wonder if he did that in public parks or, working on computers or something. I mean, because whatever it was, it didn't slow down his interest in child pornography. So he's back in the county jail now after having served 3 years in an Illinois prison. So I guess he'll try the Florida prisons for a while. Well, that's not the only registered sex offender. Now we have Richard Cousins. He's 64 years of age. He's also a registered sex offender and convicted felon. He likes children between 8 and 10 years of age. Now that's right. When people keep their child pornography or their sexual deviant child pornography, they all have a preference. Little boys, little girls, different age groups, and he happened to like 8 to 10-year-olds. He's charged with 143 different counts of child porn. But let me take you back to when he lived in the state of Maine. In 1992, he sexually abused 2 children. 2 children. Now, he sexually abused 2 children who were between the ages of 7 and 12 at the time, and the great state of Maine gave him a total of 4 years in prison and suspended 3 of the 4 years. That's right. He did 1 year for sexually abusing 2 children. Way to go, Maine. When we arrived, he was actively downloading child porn. He had 4 different computers operating at the same time. If you want to see a poster child of a child predator, of a child pornographer, of a felon, of a very dangerous person, there he is. I find it terribly interesting that prior to his arrest the other day, there are people in the United States that think we ought to give him his rights back to vote. Don't you want him selecting leaders for our cities, our counties, our state, and the nation? 143 counts of child porn. And then there's Ricky Vargas Garcia. He's 30. What does he do for a living? He's a Lego builder for Merlin Entertainment. He does not work at the park. He works at an off-site location building Legos. He admitted that he views and he trades child pornography. We're really worried about this guy. He says that he chats online with children. He apparently has talked an 11-year-old little girl into sharing nude photos, or either he shared a nude photo of himself with an 11-year-old child. We know that he prefers children 3 to 5 years of age with his child pornography. We've got him charged with 10 counts, but when he's actively going into chat rooms, talking to children, it's just a matter of time until he batters a child, if in fact he hasn't battered a child already and we're just unaware of it. And then there's Roger Caddy. He's 53. It's reported to us by him that he makes a 6-figure salary. He's been employed 22 years by Disney. He's a costume manager for Disney. His children of preference are as young as 3 years of age, and he had 24 counts of child pornography. And he's confessed to being in possession of that child pornography. Then there's Donald Merrick. Donald Merrick is 69. What's interesting about Donald is he taught school for 30 years in Maricopa County in Arizona. We've charged him with 16 counts of child porn. And he said he retired here because he loves Disney World and he goes to the theme park 2 or 3 days a week. When he's not at the theme park, he's home with child pornography. and he taught in the school systems for 30 years. Be interesting to know what kind of conduct he might have had in Arizona. Our last one is Don Carrier. Don's 84 years old. He's a retired mechanical engineer. He says that he is a member of the Mensa Society. He said that he one time had a top secret clearance with the military for some projects that he was working on. He confessed. He only looked at child porn when his wife was away from the house. He was downloading child porn when we arrived at his residence. He liked to view children as young as 3 years of age, and we charged him with 200 different counts of child pornography. So there you go. Retired school teacher, retired mechanical engineer, bartender, 22-year employee at Disney, a Lego builder for Merlin Entertainment, all child pornographers, dangerous people. There's some research that tells us that 80% of those who are engaged in collecting and viewing child pornography would or have, given the opportunity, engaged children in sexual conduct. So here's a warning to the parents. The warning is simply this: you're the first line of defense. You've got to help us. What we don't want to understate here is every time one of these photographs are shared, the child is re-victimized. But these children are sexually abused by adults, and we want to know where the victims are. We want to know where the children and the babies are. But we want these people locked up in prison. We want the people locked up in prison that created the child porn, and we want to recover the babies that these guys are victimizing. And that can happen when you pay attention in the community. Also, we just recently did a Facebook post. We added to one that was done by the Sarasota Sheriff's Office at the end of a predator operation, where they advertised different sites that child predators and child pornographers visit. We added about 20 more sites to that, and Carrie tells me we're up to over 3 million views. Parents, you've got to know where your children are going online, because wherever your children are, they are. And they're looking for your children, and they're trying to talk them into nude photographs, or they're making child pornography from the little tykes, or they're possessing it. My anger just overflows with the kind of people that would do that to children. But make no mistake, you've heard me say it before, we'll be back for Guardians of Innocence 3 operations. If you deal in child pornography, whether you make it, possess it, trade it, you're victimizing children, and we're going to arrest you, period. And then we're going to do our very best, working with State Attorney Brian Haas and his great team, to lock you up for just as long as we can. We're going to take you out of society. And parents, you've got to be all up in your children's business if you want to keep your child away from this kind of person that we've listed here today. Any further questions?
Sheriff, I want to get your reaction to a couple of things that a relative of one of the men up there said, and probably, we'll get you going here, but the relative said, well, this guy he kind of downplayed it. He said, well, he wasn't making it, he was only watching.
He was not making it, he was only watching it. Well, that makes me feel so much better. that he's just re-victimizing the child instead of originally victimizing the child. So if you're watching it instead of making it, you're only half the pervert instead of the whole pervert. I think they're perverted anyway.
He also made a claim that maybe the guy was set up. He said, well, it was sent to him, and then he just got caught up in watching it.
Ah, it was sent to him, and then he got caught up in watching it. Kind of an emotional deal, right? I love that. Tell him to keep on talking, because the absolute worst thing that we can have in a community is denial, and whoever that guy is in denial. And it sounds like he's got to screw loose himself to think that that's all right, to see it if, heck, it just gets sent to you. And by the way, I've never seen it just sent to someone by mistake. And if someone just sent you some child porn by mistake, the thing you should do is lock that down, pick the phone up, and call for our specialist and say, hey, somebody sent this to me by mistake, and then we'll trail it back from where it came. But you know what? We don't get calls like that. Just thinking. Maybe there's more to it than they want to admit. But I appreciate them telling you that. Run that on the evening news and see how they like that.
Sheriff, can you talk about Alejandro Baltazar, high schooler?
Alejandro Baltazar is not a high schooler. I don't think we listed him as one of our poster children today because he was one of several. We were trying to just limit the numbers. There was nothing earth-shaking other than he was in possession of child pornography and viewing child pornography and doing what all the others did, but to a lesser extent. We had one high school student that we've not exposed here today. Alejandro may have been the one that was a HCC college student, Hillsborough Community College student, and he was in possession of child porn as well as one 16-year-old high school kid. By the way, he was criminally charged as well. However, because he was 16 years old, we didn't want to put him on this poster and then have y'all go, oh, we don't want to run that poster because there's a 16-year-old kid on there. And we want this poster run far and wide because we think people ought to see what people look like that possess and deal and trade in child pornography.
Almost every time we attend one of these press conferences, there's someone, some man or woman working for Disney, Legoland, something with a child. I know a lot of them may be first-time offenders, but is there anything that these companies can ask or kind of detect that they will be a predator?
Well, first and foremost, when we talk about first-time offenders, I call it first-time catching because they're not first-time offenders. So this is the first-time catching. Disney employs tens of thousands of people, so the probabilities of them having someone that would be a child predator or child pornographer is exponentially increased just because of the volumes of people they deal with. And people that have a proclivity to like children, that's their sexual thing, and that's why it's so hard for normal people to understand. These folks are sexually attracted to small little girls and boys like the normal heterosexual adult is attracted to another normal heterosexual adult. So you go to where the children are. Disney, the theme parks, playgrounds, schools. I'm always suspicious of, I'm always suspicious of someone who has an overt interest in being around children at soccer fields, ballparks, but they don't have any children or grandchildren involved in the mix. Does that mean they're automatically a child pornographer or predator? Absolutely not. But my antenna goes up and I'll keep an extra close eye on that.
Obviously, they can pass the background check, but is there anything further that they can do?
Well, the federal government passed a law several years ago that prohibits you from doing a polygraph on people you're going to employ unless you're in specific fields, i.e. law enforcement. So even if all the theme parks wanted to give everybody a polygraph on this particular topic, it's against federal law.
Also, we talked to a lot of neighbors during stories like this, you know, to see if they suspected or anything. What do you tell the people who live near offenders like this?
I tell them to watch them closely, to not ever take your child trick-or-treating at their house. We know that they hide this from husbands and, wives, most of the time wives or girlfriends. So certainly they're going to hide it from the neighbors. But that doesn't mean they won't groom children in the neighborhood, try to take pictures of children in the neighborhood. These are deviant thinking human beings. Oops, did I call them a human being? I don't know what they are. They're deviants. They're dangerous. And research shows that they don't change. They do not change. When we're looking at sexual predators, sexual offenders, when we're looking at child pornographers, that intuitiveness to seek out and be a part of the child's life sexually doesn't change, according to research.
Does that include the high schooler not pictured? I mean, you think you could change their mind even at 16?
You know, certainly the parents were appropriately concerned. He's criminally charged, and we want to do everything we can, but he's going to be held criminally accountable. There's no diversions. He's going to be held criminally accountable. But his parents were appropriately concerned and are working to try to help him out.
Sure. Can you just take us through how difficult it is to piece where some of these images come from, and maybe some of them could be years old?
Sure. We operate on tips, and we receive tips from various sources. Back in the day when I used to do this investigation and supervise this investigation years ago, before the internet, before technology, what we saw for the most part was a small group of very old photographs, and very rarely but occasionally a old 8mm clip piece that had migrated over here from Europe. Most of what we see today is made here. With all the technology, you have 4D in some of your phones now, or 4K in some of your phones now, and we can take live videos, good videos. So a lot of this we're seeing now is not this old stuff, and there's lots and lots and lots of it, and thousands and thousands and thousands of photographs. So it's as easy now as having a new cell phone with 4K or a good camera, and it's frightening. We rescued a young lady that was groomed just a few months ago, and we talked about that. And our detectives, who are simply the very best in the business, are out every day seeking out this kind of predator. And that's why we need the community's help, and we need the tips. And we need to know what's going on. The one lady, I wish she'd have called us instead of destroyed the stuff, but at least when she became aware of it, she absolutely, totally annihilated it so that no one could ever see it again.